A headache today is a pill, a glass of water, and 10 minutes of quiet. But for hundreds of thousands of years, a headache was something else entirely. It was a spirit pressing against the inside of your skull. It was a stone tool cutting into your bone. It was a shaman chanting in the dark, a lump of cold clay strapped to your scalp, or a flint drill spinning between a healer's palms. The ancients did not understand headaches. They fought them anyway, with everything they had. The oldest surgery in human history is trepanation, the cutting of a hole into the living skull. And one of its most common reasons, across every continent, was a headache that would not stop. We know this because the skulls survive. In France, a Neolithic farmer buried 7,000 years ago shows a perfectly circular hole in the top of his skull. The bone around the wound healed. He lived for years after. In Peru, a prehistoric surgeon scraped away the scalp and cut through the bone with a sharpened obsidian blade. The patient survived. In North Africa, in the Levant, in the Danube Valley, the same operation appears again and again, spanning tens of thousands of years. No hospitals, no anesthesia, just a flint tool, and a belief that the pain needed a way out. The logic was straightforward. Something was trapped inside the head, a demon, a pressure, a bad vapor, and the only relief was to let it escape. The healer cut, the patient bit down on leather or wood. The skull opened, some died, many did not, and the procedure was so common that in some Neolithic graveyards, 1 in every 10 skulls bears the mark of the drill. Trepanation was not a last resort. It was a standard treatment, older than writing, older than cities, older than the wheel. For early humans who did not reach for the knife, the headache was a spiritual problem. The world was full of spirits, ancestral, animal, elemental, and a pain in the head meant that one of them had entered the body and would not leave. The cure was not surgical, it was ritual. A shaman or a healer would enter a trance state, often with the help of rhythmic drumming or psychoactive plants, and journey into the spirit world. The goal was to confront the invading spirit, bargain with it, or drive it out. The patient sat in darkness, the fire flickering, the chant rolling on for hours. Sometimes the healer would press a smooth river stone to the patient's temple, believing the stone absorbed the pain. Sometimes they would blow smoke across the scalp or rub the head with cold ash. The treatments were not random. They followed patterns passed down through generations, part of a coherent belief system that treated the body and the invisible world as one. If the headache lifted, the ritual was repeated and remembered. If it did not, the patient was considered spiritually besieged and more powerful interventions were sought. Alongside the spirit work, early humans developed physical treatments that were surprisingly practical. Cold water was the most universal. A hunter with a throbbing temple would kneel by a stream and press his head into the current, letting the cold numb the pain. If water was not nearby, a handful of snow or a cold, flat stone served the same purpose. Heat was also used. A heated stone wrapped in animal hide was pressed to the back of the neck. The muscles loosened, the pain eased. In some archaeological sites, we find smooth, palm-sized stones with burn marks on one side. Evidence, some researchers believe, of a primitive hot stone therapy for pain relief. Pressure, too, was widely applied. A tight band of animal sinew or woven grass was tied around the head, compressing the temples. The same principle is behind the modern headache hat. The materials were different. The instinct was identical. When civilizations rose, the headache treatments became more elaborate, but the logic remained the same. In ancient Egypt, a healer would take a clay figurine of a crocodile, Sobek, the god of protection, and strap it directly to the patient's scalp. The crocodile was not a metaphor. It was a weapon. It would bite the demon that caused the pain. Meanwhile, the healer recited spells from a papyrus scroll, calling on the gods to expel the invader. The patient sat motionless with a clay reptile bound to their head for hours, hoping the spirits would relent. If they did not, another remedy involved pouring warm goat's milk mixed with ground donkey teeth into the affected ear. The logic is lost to us. The desperation is not. The Romans later refined an even stranger cure. If a headache was severe, you could visit a temple of Asclepius, where a priest would hand you a live torpedo fish, an electric ray. You pressed the fish to your temple, and the shock it delivered was meant to jolt the pain away. This was not magic. The torpedo fish produces a voltage strong enough to numb a limb, and it represents one of the earliest recorded uses of electricity in medicine. Meanwhile, across the ancient world, a real cure was growing in river valleys and marshlands. Willow bark, chewed raw or boiled into a bitter tea, contains salicin, the same compound that powers aspirin. The Sumerians recorded its use on clay tablets 5,000 years ago. Hippocrates prescribed it for fever and pain in the 4th century BC. It was rough. It could cause stomach bleeding, but it worked. The active ingredient was not discovered by scientists. It was discovered by countless anonymous sufferers who noticed that chewing the bark of a particular tree made the pain go away. The headache has always been with us. It pulsed behind the eyes of a Paleolithic hunter who had eaten something wrong. It throbbed in the temple of a Neolithic woman who sat in darkness while a shaman sang. It persisted through the Egyptian temple, the Roman bathhouse, and the medieval sick room. The treatments changed. Flint drills, clay crocodiles, electric fish, bitter bark, but the pain did not. And in those moments, the ancient world was doing what we still do, reaching for anything that might make the hurting stop. Next time you reach for a pill, remember the hole in the skull, the cold river stone, and the shaman chanting in the dark. The past was painful, and it was desperate, and it was never very far away.